Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Darn it, I don't want this Texit coin stuff up here. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. But this is Crypto Monday Mindset, not Texit Coin Tuesday. Hey, maybe that's a good idea for my next video series, Texit Coin Tuesday. Hey, anyways, folks, good morning. Happy Monday. I hope all of you are having a fantastic day. My name is Brad Varnell. This is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel. Forgot to turn on my little purple light there. Monday morning. Hope everybody is doing fantastic. I am doing great. Though this is fun. I'm staring right into a camera, but about 20 feet behind the camera is a Christmas tree. For those of you that have cats, Christmas trees are a challenge, and I've got 7 of them. So I'm watching the Christmas tree go like this in the background, moving all over the place. I wonder which one's trying to climb up it. But guys, we got a lot to talk about today. Today's going to be an impactful day. For those of you that are brand new to the channel, my name is Brad Varnell. This is the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel. And today we are going to be talking about goals and how to destroy them in 2026, how to get everything that you want. I'm going to probably share some insights on setting goals and creating goals and how to achieve your goals, maybe slightly different than anything you've ever heard before. So stick with me. We'll get into that here in just a couple of minutes. But for everybody else, for those of you guys that have been a part of the channel for a while, I want to give you a quick update. The last time we spoke was last Monday because my wife and I were in Colorado doing a fertility treatment. And guys, I just want to let you know, we've been so blessed. There's no final like, hey, we are for sure pregnant yet. But the procedure went as absolutely well as it could have on Wednesday of last week. And we had 2 eggs implanted. Oh my goodness, I'm so off my game today. My phone's making a bunch of noise on me. I've been like preparing for the live stream for a lot longer this morning than I do a lot of times too. It's definitely just so much going on after not having been live here for a week. So we have 2 beautiful, incredible little humans, embryos that got implanted into my wife last week. And what I mean by that is the science these days is just so absolutely unbelievable and phenomenal. So in the old days with fertility treatment, they would take, the woman's egg, they would take the man's sperm, they would put it in a dish and basically let the sperm do its thing, because it was close, it was right there, basically mixed in with the eggs. Well, these days they have a process. I don't know exactly how they do it, but they literally can, basically take a look with microscopes and stuff and figure out like what sperm are the healthiest. And we ended up with, I want to say it was about 11 viable eggs. And so they took the 2 eggs that were the best. We didn't do any genetic testing. We didn't want to mess with that. We want God to be as involved as possible in this process. So we didn't choose the sex. We didn't, try to look for any deformities or disease or anything like that. We just want that to be as natural as possible. But long story short, they actually take my sperm, and there's a way that they basically insert the sperm into the egg. So there's absolutely zero doubt as to whether or not the egg that they're putting back into her is fertilized. And I don't have the pictures with me. My wife is actually at the doctor's office right now getting some blood drawn and making sure that everything is going smoothly right now. But the pictures of the eggs, you can actually see the egg where, I don't know if the word hatching is a great word, but where the egg is actually hatching, where you can see the embryo starting to split open. And so these eggs are 1000% fertilized. There is a baby, and as a Christian, we believe that life starts at inception, at inception. And we believe that, these little guys or gals have souls already. The only question at this point is whether or not they actually attach to the lining of the uterus and grow and turn into babies. That part is not guaranteed. But man, like I said, medical advancements, they do so much. They literally, the day before they transferred the eggs, they did this wash, this milky wash that is basically designed to make the lining sticky so that the eggs have a better chance of sticking and attaching and starting to grow. So having said all of that, I'm way up here with my expectation. I believe that we have at least one, if not 2 or 3 babies potentially going to be here in about 9 months. One thing with, the fertility treatment, the way that we did it, we definitely have a higher possibility of multiple births. So it's more likely that these eggs can split than normal. And it's, also if both of them, there's 2 eggs. So if both of them just attach and end up growing, we would have, twins, basically. They would be, paternal from different eggs. But there's also the possibility that like one egg could split, and then one egg could just be single, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie here, guys. I hope that we're not one of the ones where, all of a sudden we have 7 kids. I mean, if that happens, we'll deal with it. We'll be good. I mean, I'll be excited too, but I mean, I'm really praying for 2 or 3. I would love, it's kind of funny. We've already got some names picked out. And so, I'm kind of hoping for 2 daughters that we're going to name Olivia and Harper. And then I haven't figured out my son's name yet if we have a son. But I'm kind of hoping that we got 3 babies, that one of the eggs splits into 2 girls, and that then we have a baby boy. So I call him Olivia, Harper, and then Bradley Jr. until I really figure out what my son's name is going to be. But that's the update. Everybody's happy and healthy. You guys can see from the background that we are here in, back in Arizona, back home, and life is good. So with that, guys, let's get into some goal setting. And why are we talking about this today? Everybody here watching this has probably set some goals in their life. Do me a favor, if you're watching this and you have the ability right now, throw a 1 in the chat. If you've ever written down some goals, if you've ever gone through, like a goal training, some of you have probably heard the acronym SMART, which it's specific, measurable, something, but it's an acronym for goal setting. So if you have ever written stuff down on a piece of paper, wrote out, hey, I'm going to make, $1 million in 2024, or I'm going to be able to lift this much weight. I'm going to be this, I'm going to be, this many pounds. If you've ever written out a goal in your life, put a 1 in the chat. And then do me a favor. If you've ever written out a goal in your life and you didn't end up achieving it, and you're honest enough to throw another 1 in the chat, throw another 1 in the chat if you've ever written out some goals and never achieved them. And then last but not least, guys, and I'm going to raise my hand here too. If you've ever sat down and written out some goals and then literally basically never taken any action towards that goal, put a 1 in the chat. Like if you literally, I can tell you more times than I would like to admit where I have sat down on a Sunday night and written out some goals for the next week or the next month or the next year, and literally have put in 0 action. zero action towards actually accomplishing that goal. And within a few days, that goal, that thing that I wanted, that thing that I was super excited to try to go and achieve, I've basically almost forgotten about it because it's too painful to think about. Because guys, think about this. Part of the reason that setting goals doesn't get done more often is the pain of not achieving the goal. How miserable is it to wake up and know that you have these goals, these dreams, these things that you want to accomplish? Hey guys. But after you got them down on paper, you never did anything towards achieving them. So guys, I appreciate all of the ones in the chat. For those of you that are honest enough to admit it, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. So with that, I want to hop over here to this screen, and definitely, guys, if you have a pen and paper handy, this is probably another great Monday mindset to have a pen and paper handy and do a little bit of writing. So I threw this up here because I didn't feel like being full screen all day long. But one of the things that I'm gonna kind of go through my list of things here in no necessarily particular order, but I want to talk about, when you're setting goals, I want you to quit focusing on what you want. And that might sound kind of backwards, because guys, when you're setting a goal, isn't the whole idea of the goal to get it down on paper? You know, I want to earn $1 million in 2026 and be financially free and be this and be that. You know, so if it's a financial goal, everybody will tell you that it's pretty important to be specific. You know, you want it to be measurable, you know, like we were saying, the SMART acronym. So you would think that it would be normal, hey, you know, for you to write down, hey, I am a millionaire by such and such a date. And I'm telling you, quit focusing on what you want. Because that's part of the trouble with goal setting is 99% of the people out there will take a pen and paper and they will write down what they want. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for that. And it is, you do have to do that part, but quit focusing on what you want. What do I mean by that? Well, you got to start focusing on the inputs. So in life, there's usually, you know, a scientific reason that something happens. So most things in life, you can pretty much break down scientifically why this occurred, whether it's a hurricane or your car taking off. Like, it's pretty easy to know that if you get in your car, you can write down on a piece of paper all you want that you want to drive from Arizona to Colorado. But guys, I can write that down on a piece of paper and say, hey, I'm going to be in Colorado in the next, 13 hours. That's my goal. But if I don't actually start the car and put it into drive and hit the gas pedal, I can sit there writing it at a piece of paper and saying that over and over and over and over to myself for the rest of my life and never end up in Colorado. And so many people will tell you, hey, write down your goals. And then what do they tell you? Say them out loud to yourself every single day. Well, guys, that's all fine and dandy. That's wonderful. But once again, if you're sitting in your car and you want to drive to Colorado and you write that down and that's your goal, you can sit there and read that out loud to yourself every single day. But if you don't actually put the car into drive, you don't start the car, you don't put the car into drive, you don't hit the gas, you're never gonna get there. So guys, when I say focus on the inputs, another way of saying that is to reverse engineer the outcome. So what do I mean by reverse engineer the outcome? Well, once again, we go back to the goal. So even though I said quit focusing on what you want, you do got to know what you want. I just don't want you focused on what you want. I want you focused on reverse engineering what you want. And so obviously it sounds kind of silly in the car example, but if you were going to take this and use the example of me driving to Colorado, then the reverse engineer it. So the last step is pulling into the Quality Inn on Garden of the Gods Road in Colorado Springs, Colorado. That is the end. So we go all the way to that end, and then we reverse engineer it. What are all of the steps that need to happen from me sitting in my car and me being in Colorado Springs checking into the hotel? Once you can determine that list of things that needs to be happening and you reverse engineer that, well, the first thing I need to do is pack. Probably going to be a good idea to have some clothes there. Like, so many people focus on what they want, but they don't focus on the other things. Like if I just said, hey, I want to be in Colorado in, 13 hours or so, and I just jumped in my car the way I am, I would end up getting to Colorado. And guess what? Colorado probably wouldn't be what I wanted it to be. It would no longer look the way that I wanted it to look, because I would just show up in Colorado and I wouldn't have any clothes. My phone might be dead because I didn't have a charger. I might show up and I don't have any money to pay for the hotel room because I didn't, sell any crypto and move the crypto into my bank account. So my point is, guys, when you figure out what it is that you want, go reverse engineer it. Look at the end goal and then figure out what you have to do between here and there in order to get it done. So once again, it might sound a little silly, but I would need to go pack. And I would need to make sure that my money situation was right, that I had the money in the right accounts to cover the gas and the food for the trip, to be able to pay for the hotel. You might want to plan the trip out a little bit, like, hey, I'm going to drive from point A, and then I'm going to get about 250 miles, as long as I don't have to go to the bathroom sooner. And I'm going to stop in this little area, this little town, and get some gas, pick up some snacks, and so on and so forth. Another good example would be, say it was a money goal. Say that you wanted to make, either you have a goal for a lump sum, a number that you want to have in your bank account or in your cryptocurrency accounts or in your investments accounts, whatever it is, or you want to have a monthly income. Well, then what you need to do is you need to reverse engineer that. So if you were to say to yourself that you wanted to have $1 million by, say, January 1st of 2027, you're going to give yourself a little bit over a year. And let's just say, for argument's sake, that you're starting at zero. Well, then what I would highly recommend doing is you got to go and say, okay, well, there's 16 days left in December, and there's 365 days in 2026. So 365 plus 16 is 375, 381. So if you went to your calculator and you took $1 million divided by 381, you would need to make $2,624 a day. And so, there's different ways that you can break that down. In fact, I would probably break it down like this, guys. I would take 1 million and basically figure, you've got 52 weeks in 2026. And then let's call it basically 2 more weeks this year. So you got 54 weeks. So I would take 1 million and I'd start off by dividing it by 54. that would give me 18,518 dollars a week. And actually, you really would probably be better off breaking it down even one more way to start off with. So what I would really do is I would take $1 million, and how many months are there between now and January 1st of 2027? Well, there's going to be 12 months in 2026, and then we've got about half a month. So I'd call it 12.5 months. So I'd take 1 million divided by 12.5. That's $80,000 a month. Now you can take that $80,000 and divide it into the weeks, and you're going to get, if you take roughly $20,000 a week with a couple of days left over. And then once again, if you divide it all the way down into the smallest sum of per day, that's $2,624. Now, guys, this is where most people fall totally off the rails and they totally get lost. They set a goal for $1 million, say by January 1st of 2027, and now they don't break it down into how much they need to make per day. So they don't move forward in any type of a meaningful way to actually have that outcome happen. And then what'll happen is after a week or two or three, like maybe right now today, as you're writing that goal down, it seems achievable. But what will happen is after a week or two or a month or two, you'll realize that you're still at zero. You don't have any money towards the million, and it basically becomes too painful to think about. You quit believing that it's possible, and so the goal just goes by the wayside. And then 3 months or 6 months or 5 years from now, you'll come across the notebook that you wrote the goal down in, and you'll be like, oh, that's right. I had a goal to have $1 million by January 1st of 2027, and I didn't even get started. I never even got my shoes laced up and got out on the track. So guys, by reverse engineering the goal, you now have a little bit of an idea of what needs to happen. So now you realize that you need the $2,644 a day. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky. Let's say you've got a job and you're making pretty good money. Let's say you're making, $150,000 a year, even, $200,000 a year. I know a lot of people that make that kind of money that still spend most of it. So just because you're making, let's call it 150, just because you're making $150,000 a year doesn't mean that you're going to have $150,000 that you can put towards this $1 million goal, right? If you're lucky, most people, if they're making 150, if they can save 20% is pretty massive. I don't think there's a whole lot of people out there in life that have their finances set up so well that they're able to save and invest 20% of every dollar that they make. There's some out there, but most aren't. But let's just say, even if you were one of those folks that was super, super, hyper great with your money, and you have the ability to save 20% of that 150,000, that's only $30,000. So some people would say that you're crazy for setting $1 million goal by January of 2027. Some people would say, hey, maybe you should make a smaller goal. Well, I'm in between. I'm kind of a little bit of a proponent of both camps. Like, I want you to set goals that are doable, but it's not a goal if you know for sure it's going to happen. So in other words, if you were sitting here today and you've been saving, 20% of your income for the last 10 years, and you made a goal of, I'm going to have $30,000 by January 1st, 2007, in my opinion, that's not really a goal. That's just a done deal. Like there's no stretching. There's nothing new required of you. You just do what you do. You go to work, you come home, you put your 20% in an account, and you're going to have 30,000. So that's not good. At the same time, guys, I was listening to a gentleman earlier. It's got to be believable. So if you're writing down goals on a piece of paper that you don't even believe you can achieve, you're basically lying to yourself, and you're lying to the other people in your life that are counting on you, that are rooting for you, that love you. So you want to make sure that a goal is something that is believable by you. Doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks. Nobody has to believe you can do it except for you guys. But it's important that you believe you can do it. But it's not necessary for you to know how you're going to do it. Write that down, guys. It's important to believe you can do it. It is not important for you to already know how you are going to do it. And that might sound a little bit, contrarian to some of the things that I'm talking about, because remember, we're talking about going from what you want to reverse engineering it. And it's a little hard to reverse engineer something if you're not even exactly sure how you're going to get there. But stick around with me here for a couple more minutes and I'll explain what I mean by this. You want to have a big, audacious goal, but you want it to be something that you believe in. How you're going to get to it is not the most critical part, but here's where we get into those inputs. So you want to break these goals down into daily activities, daily actions. If you know that you want to have $1 million by January of 2027, and you know that you have to make $2,644 a day, or save $2,644 a day in order to have $1 million, well, what step can you take today that you have control over that actually will put you on the path to where in a month from now, see, most of you, if you set that goal and you know that you need 400 and well, let me do the math again here. 1 million divided by 381, 2624. So you know you need $2,624, and you don't make any money today, and you don't make any money tomorrow. You don't make any money the next day, except for your normal paycheck. All of a sudden, 30 days goes by, times 30, you're supposed to have $78,740 in the bank. Most of us, after a month, when we don't have any, or let's say that you're good with your money and you're saving your 20%, $30,000. So $30,000, that'd be what do we say, 12 and a half months. So what's a 12th of 30,000? Maybe 20 something $100. So you're sitting there after a month and you need 78,000 and you've got 2,600. It's pretty hard to still believe and be excited about having $1 million come January 1st of 2027. But guys, what you need to do, what I suggest that you do, is that you break it down into smaller goals, and you have to understand something about financial goals, especially. If your goal is to be a millionaire by January of 2027, odds are that probably come, I would say in general, odds are that by, let's say, September of 2026, if you are 25% or so of the way there, you're actually doing good. Because I will tell you that 80% of the results are going to come in the last 20% of the time. So it's not unusual if you have a big goal like that for it to feel like this, like our cryptocurrency line, where it just feels like a flat line. You're working, you're plugging along, you're putting, aside $100 here, $200 there. A month goes by, you've got $2,500 saved. Another month goes by, maybe you get $3,000 saved that month, But what's going to happen, because you're focused on this goal and you're reverse engineering it, your daily activity. Now, for us as cryptocurrency investors, maybe your daily activity is spending 30 minutes a day researching new cryptocurrency projects, or just in, researching and educating yourself in cryptocurrency every single day. So this is important, guys. At the end of the month, if you look at your bank account balance, that's not going to be motivating. You're going to wonder how in the world this $1 million plan is possible. But if you look at the inputs and you've got 3 to 5 things that you need to do on a daily basis to be growing closer and closer and closer to that goal, at the end of the month, if you can look back and look in the mirror and you can tell yourself, man, I was fantastic. I did those 3 to 5 needle moving activities almost every single day. I'm not telling you got to be perfect, but if you can look back at that last 30 days and you can say, man, I was on it for 20, 25 days of the last 30 doing those needle moving activities. And yeah, I only accumulated $2,600 when I needed to accumulate 78. But because I've been researching and figuring out what I need to invest that $2,600 in, because remember, the goal is $1 million by January 1st. No place at all on any sheet of paper did you ever write down that you had to save $1 million. So you're not going to get there by saving. Let's all agree. If you're making $150,000 a year, you're not going to accumulate $1 million by saving. We all agree on that. We agreed that if you were just going to save, you end up with $30,000. So obviously, you're going to have to figure out a way to invest the money that you're saving, and you're going to have to learn how to create more money, more income streams. So this is another opportunity, to figure out what are those 3 to 5 inputs. I'm not here to tell you what those are, but I can tell you a few of them. So one of them might be to get a second job and use that extra money. If you could get a part-time job and make, say, an extra, $1,000, $2,000 a month that you could invest, wow, all of a sudden, that's a lot of extra money that you can now start putting into investments that can grow into that $1 million. What's something else? Like we talked about Uber one time. You go make an extra $100 a day in Uber, literally cash it out to your bank account daily. They got ways where you can deposit money into your account daily. And then literally, as soon as you deposit that money into your account, you go buy $100 worth of this asset that you have been studying. You've been doing your research 30 minutes a day. You don't got to go spend 4 or 5 hours a day checking out the market. 30 minutes a day, every single day, is going to put you in front of, 999 out of 1,000 investors. Once again, I'm just here to give you a few ideas, but the inputs are going to be a little bit different for each person. But by having the inputs, you've now taken this goal that you've written down on a piece of paper and you've reverse engineered it. And you've basically said, if I do this, 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 and this today, then I was successful. And you just do that on a daily basis, and it keeps you motivated because you know as long as you're doing those things that you're on the path to the goal. You don't need the $78,000 in the bank at the end of the month in order to feel successful and to know that you're on the trajectory of hitting your $1 million goal. And then the next step, by keeping that in the forefront of your mind, ideas will come. You will have an opportunity to make an incredible investment. You're also going to have a lot of opportunities that come into your path that now allow you to make extra money. Like I say, a second job is okay. I'm not saying that that's the path that I recommend. I would recommend actually starting a small business, a side hustle, something that you can do from your home in the hours that you're not actually at your job. And I would, take some of my Netflix and chill time, and I would figure out a way to create an income stream in my Netflix and chill time. Whether that's, maybe you create your own YouTube channel about cooking or repairing cars, or how you're selling real estate, or whatever it is, how you're getting through the military. That might be a bad example. I've got some young men in my life. My son has some friends that are in the military, and it just came to my mind, like, what if they documented their military journey? But I don't know what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. So if you're in the military and I just sparked an idea, please make sure that you're not going to do anything that gets you court-martialed. My point is, the creativity will start to flow. And all of a sudden, instead of it taking the whole 12 and a half months to save up $30,000, all of a sudden in 3 or 4 months, you're going to have $30,000, which is a heck of a lot better than the $2,600 a month that was going to get you to $30,000. All of a sudden in 3 or 4 months, you 4x'd what you were going to get. All of a sudden, you got $30,000 sitting there because you started a side hustle. You started doing something to bring in extra money. Some of your investments started to take off. And that is how you can go from a person that just writes stuff down on a sheet of paper and never accomplishes it. And guys, you can do this with anything in life. How many of us have wrote down on a piece of paper, that we're going to, even with that, like you want to be a business owner. Like, I am going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to own my own business, by 2020, by March of 2026. So you're giving yourself, 3 months to start your own business. You write it down on a piece of paper, but you never reverse engineer what that looks like. So all you have written down on this piece of paper is, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to own my own business. Oh, there's my favoriteest person in the world. How's it going, babe? Good. We don't know anything yet, right? But we do know this, guys. My beautiful bride is bringing me some medicine. Look at that. I got me some Golden Eagle, sugar-free Golden Eagle. That here is going to get poured into this here. I got my black iced coffee and then my sugar-free Golden Eagle. They're going to get combined very, very soon. Thank you, sweetheart. So, what I would do is I would write down, once I wrote down that you want to be an entrepreneur, you have the big goal that you want to own your own business, then you got to kind of figure out, okay, well, what kind of business do you want to own? Most people will write down a goal, as silly as it might sound. They will write down a goal saying, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to own my own business. And then they'll never even get to the step of figuring out what business they want to own. Let me see here. I'm going to go over to the chat. Daniel said something here is catching my eye. Why can't I get? There's my mouse. Daniel said, hundreds of times I wrote New Year's resolutions for a new career start, kicking off another one, zealous this time. Thanks, Sir Brad. See, I mean, we can all relate to this topic because we're all winners here. We're motivated. We wouldn't be here on this YouTube channel this morning if we weren't. So it's great that we all love the idea of winning in our life and that we have these goals and that we want to achieve these things. But sometimes, folks, it can just be such a daunting task because you write down the goal, but you never take the time to really figure out what it's going to take to achieve the goal. And something else that I want to mention here real quick. Let me take a sip of this. It's kind of, when it's sitting right here next to you, it's kind of hard to resist. Oh, man, that's good. Something else that I want you guys to do that you may or may not be thinking about, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself as you figure out what the 1, 3, 5 things that are daily activities that you need to do. Be man or woman enough to admit to yourself whether or not you're willing to make the sacrifices. Now, I don't really like that word sacrifice because to me it's a negative word. To me, it's the exact opposite, really, of what we should be calling these things, in my opinion. Like, to me, getting in shape and being healthy, really, probably one of the reasons that hasn't gone as well for me as I would like for it to do is because I consider the things that I have to do. What are the things that you have to do to get in shape and get healthy? Well, you got to eat clean. Well, what's the first thing most people think of about when it comes to eating clean? Well, now I got to sacrifice. I can't have this. I can't have that. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I got to blah, blah, blah. Like all of these things that they can't do, all of these sacrifices that they have to make. They got to go to the gym 5 days a week and sacrifice that time that they would rather be doing whatever it is that you would rather be doing. Sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. Guys, achieving your dreams doesn't take sacrifice. In my opinion, it's just a matter of doing what you want most rather than what you want now. And that's one of my favorite sayings in the world. The chief cause of failure and unhappiness is choosing what you want now over what you want most. The pain of regret, the pain of not achieving your goal is 100 times worse than doing the things that it takes to achieve it. So what is a better word than we could use than sacrifice? What's a positive word that we can put in place? Instead of saying, well, I'm going to sacrifice this, this, and this in order to achieve this goal, what's a good word that we can put in place of the word sacrifice? I honestly, in the heat of the moment, I don't know. This wasn't part of my talk. But if one of you guys can come up with a positive word, instead of saying, I'm going to sacrifice, I don't, like, what can we say? Because to me, that just seems like a crummy, miserable thing to say. I don't want to start off my day waking up in the morning going, well, I'm going to sacrifice. I don't, man. Like, I heard somebody say today, that whenever anybody asks them, hey, how you doing today? They always say, man, every day is a great day, and I don't expect this one to be any different. And people will kind of laugh at them, and give them a hard time. And he says, why? Like, I can have a great day every single day. And I'm like that. Man, you're never going to catch me saying, oh, today's an awful day. It doesn't happen. I don't know. My wife's been with me for 13 years. How many times have I said, today's an awful day? I mean, it's probably happened. Never? I think so. She can't even remember one time. I mean, I can remember a couple times where I've kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed. It was a little bit like, Charlie Brown's friend with the blanket with the green stuff falling off. It was that Linus. Yeah, every once in a while, like in 13 years, though, it's probably been less. She can't even count on one hand the times that that's happened. I have great days every single day. And yeah, some days are more challenging than others. Some days things happen during the day that I wish, maybe didn't happen. But I have a great day every single day. So I don't want to go through life sacrificing. What do we got here? We're going to allocate time schedule. Let me see here. The current situation of depression in men is the total disregard of talking about toxic, what? I'm not quite exactly sure exactly what you mean there. But yeah, I think, Eric, to your point, I think that the current situation of depression in men really comes down to most men are living well beneath their potential. And when you're living well below your potential, it's depressing. Guys, I always got to be careful when I start talking about stuff like this, but if you have clinical depression, you need medication and those types of things, then by all means, you do what your doctor tells you to do. But in my uneducated opinion, because I'm uneducated, I'll tell you, I'm not a doctor. I've never gone to medical school. I've never read any books on depression. I've never studied depression because I don't believe in it. I'm not going to be depressed. But I'm here to tell you that 90% or more of the population that is living with severe depression, it could be cured, in my opinion. 90% of them don't need medication. What they need to do is they need to start living up to their human, God-given potential. When you are living up to your potential, you are not going to be depressed. It just is what it is. I said it. So if you're depressed, go Google 75 hard, Andy Frisella. You go do 75 hard, for the next 75 days, and you will be amazed at how that will cure you of depression faster than just about anything else in the world. I'm telling you, 75 hard, amazing program. I wasn't even going to talk about it today, but if you want to talk about the, if you want to talk about life-changing things, if you want to get out from underneath depression, start keeping the promises that you make to yourself. You know what's depressing? Sunday night, writing down all of your goals and all of the things that you're going to do on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and then not doing any of them. Sunday night, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and head to the gym. And then Monday morning rolls around and your alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. and you reset it for 7:30 in the morning and you don't get up and go to the gym. That's depressing. Sunday night comes along and you write down, hey, I'm not going to drink I'm not going to drink any coffee in the morning. And then you wake up and drink coffee. I had one just the other day, where I decided that I was going to intermittent fast. So my eating window is from noon to 8 p.m. And, after a few days of doing it and tweaking it, I've changed it around a little bit. But my point is a couple of days ago, before I had figured out exactly how I wanted it to look, my commitment was that I wouldn't eat until noon. And my wife and I were out and about, and we got our golden eagle. So this is off limit. This is off limits until noon, or it was that day. It's not today, but it was that day. And so was food. So we went and got this, and I knew I wasn't going to drink it till noon, but now my wife was hungry. So we went to McDonald's and we got a couple of sausage and egg McMuffins. Well, I had to fight with myself because I knew that I was going to change. I was going to start eating a little bit earlier in the day, but I had a choice. Do I make? Do I break the promise to myself that I'm not going to eat until noon today just because I'm changing it and it's going to be different moving forward? Or do I keep my word to myself and start doing the new program that I had thought about and decided to do starting the next day. Well, I'm happy to tell you guys, as insignificant as that might seem, it's actually massive. And I didn't eat the sandwiches. I came home, I waited until noon before I ate. And so keep the promises that you make to yourself and start living up to your potential. And depression is almost magically going to be gone in most of your lives. Once again, there's some of you out there that might need medicine, that really should be taking whatever your doctor is prescribing. Once again, I'm not telling you to disregard what your doctor says and get off your meds and just, get on 75 hard. That's not what I'm saying. But I am telling you that in my personal opinion, my belief, 90% of depression could be cured with those two things. Keep the promises that you make to yourself and get out there and start living up to your human potential. So enough about that. Back to goals. So we talked about evaluating what steps and input. What are the costs? Once again, let's get back on that. What are the costs? What are the time, the energy, and the money that you're going to have to spend to make this goal happen? It's going to be a little bit different with every person, with every goal, depending on what you're doing. But what is the time commitment to make this goal happen? What is the energy commitment? What is this gonna take from you energetic wise? What are you gonna maybe have to displace? We talked about it before on a previous show. Like maybe you got to decide that this goal is more important to you than your bowling league. Maybe you got to decide that this goal is more important to you than your fantasy football league. Whatever it is, you're going to have to figure out some place to draw time, energy, and money from your life. And, we've been going for almost an hour, so I'm going to be getting off of here, pretty quick. But the last but not least, if you're not exactly sure what the inputs are, in other words, if you've got a goal and you're not quite sure how to reverse engineer it, that's okay. But don't let that stop you. And so, guys, it's time for you. Make 2026 the year of the coach. Guys, Michael Jordan had a guy named Tim Grover. If you haven't read his books, Relentless and Winning, I highly recommend Googling Tim Grover, Grover. He was Michael Jordan's coach. So Michael Jordan had, Phil Jackson and his regular basketball coaches, but Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's coach when those guys weren't around. And I'm telling you, Michael Jordan would have been the greatest probably with or without Tim, but he understood that he needed, Tim Grover. For those of you that are watching today that have maybe you can't afford a coach, maybe you just don't like the idea of being coached, I want you to really take a serious look at this point and get over it. Figure it out. Guys, there's more free information on YouTube today than there has been at any point in time in our world up to this point. So don't use money as an excuse. If you can't afford to hire a coach, you can darn sure afford to get onto YouTube for free. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to energy. So in this case, if you can't afford a coach, then use time and use energy. Forget about the money. Use time and energy and learn the stuff that you need to learn for free. Today, right now, you're getting coached, whether you knew it or not. I'm helping. I'm being a coach today. So for those of you that are like, well, I don't want nothing to do with a coach, then you probably should unsubscribe from my channel, because when you're watching this information, I'm Coach Brad right now today. So, but I'm telling you, if you want to get in shape, get a personal trainer. So that's one of the goals, one of the things that I'm implementing into my life. It creates accountability, but the most important thing is it creates somebody that has what you want. So if you're not exactly sure what the inputs are, go find somebody that does. What does that mean? Go find somebody that has what you want and figure out how to learn what they did, what those inputs were, what those steps that they took on a daily basis was. You can save yourself literally years of banging your head against the wall by getting with somebody that has what you want and having them teach you what they did and then just going out and doing it. Guys, if you go order something from IKEA or a furniture store or wherever, right, and it comes home and you try to throw away the instructions, you're too macho, you can do this, you know, you can put together the couch, you don't need no stupid manual. I guarantee you're probably going to run into some problems. But the guy that is humble enough to just say, hey, yeah, here's the instructions. Okay, step one, we take this piece here and we take this piece and we put it together and these are where those screws go. Step two, now we, move on to this all the way through until one of the final steps where you're putting the cushions on the couch. Guys, having a blueprint like that is almost, like even me going to Colorado, like if I would have just had to figure out how to get to Colorado with no map, no GPS, no nothing, I just know, hey, it's this direction. We're just going to head, we're going to kind of head north, what was it? I guess it was east and northeast. We were heading north. We're just going to head northeast, follow some signs and hope we maybe get to Colorado. We might have got to Colorado. We probably would have, but we would have probably turned a 13-hour trip into a 17, 18, 24-hour trip. I don't know what it is about us in this day and age, but everybody wants to try to do everything all on their own. Guys, there's nothing honorable about just doing it all on your own. One of the biggest things that all of us, especially as men, can do to improve our situation is to ask for help. Raise your hand and say, hey, this ain't working for me. What do I need to do? And find the right person, though. You can't be asking somebody that has never worked on a car in their life how to, fix your engine. You can't be asking an accountant that's never owned any real estate investment properties what to do, how to buy real estate investment properties. On the flip side, you shouldn't be talking to your real estate agent about your accounting. So, last but not least, guys, find a coach. If cryptocurrency investing is what you want to do, find a coach. Find somebody that's going to keep you accountable. And I promise you guys, when you find a coach, especially one that you're paying for, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to cost more than you can afford. That's part of the growing process. It's part of the stepping stone. I'll never forget a story where this guy found a coach. It was going to cost him $1,500 a month, but he didn't have any idea how he was going to come up with $1,500 a month. $1,500 a month might as well have been $15,000 a month. But this guy owned a small business that was struggling, and the person that he was going to be getting coached from had turned a similar type of business into a multi-million-dollar business. So this guy took a leap of faith, went out and got a loan, maxed out his credit card, paid the $1,500, and had the belief that if he listened to this coach for the next month and did everything that this coach said, that he would make enough money to start paying the $1,500 a month. And guess what? After a month of coaching, the guy had increased his bottom line in his business by about $7,500 a month. The guy in 1 month helped him make an extra $7,500. And so often, folks, we're so focused on the cost. We're so focused on the upfront paying, the $1,500 that we don't have, that we never take a look at the end result, what we're going to end up with because of the coaching. This gentleman has now gone on to become worth over $100 million. He's in his mid-40s. He's got one of the best physiques you will ever see on a 45-year-old. He's totally transformed his body. But guess what? He's had a coach every step of the way. When he decided to transform his body, he got a coach. He found somebody that looked the way that he wanted to look, and he paid them to teach him how to look like that. So there was no question. When he woke up in the morning, he knew what he was going to eat. He knew what time he was going to work out. He knew how long he was going to work out. He knew what he was going to do while he was working out. One of the things I've been guilty of, anybody else like me, like you finally get the discipline to get up, put on your shoes, your shorts, and your t-shirt, and you get to the gym, and then you show up to the gym and you're like, what am I going to do today? Guys, if you're showing up to the gym asking yourself, what am I going to do today? You already lost. Yeah, it's better that you're there at the gym than not. But if you don't even know exactly what you're going to do, so you're like, well, my legs kind of hurt, so I think I'll just do a little upper body workout today. Then you show up at the gym tomorrow and you're like, well, I'm not really feeling like lifting weights, so I guess I'm just going to do some cardio today. And you just get to the gym and do what you want to do kind of at whim. You end up overloading muscles. You work the same muscle groups 2 or 3 days in a row instead of switching up. Like all sorts of mistakes that you can make if you're just showing up at the gym and not sure what you're going to do. Guys, I'm going to shut up here. I'm going to say it one more time, then I'm going to shut up. Get a coach. If you can't afford a coach, find somebody on YouTube that you love. I recommend Ed Milet and Myron Golden. If you're really looking to improve your sales game, so for some of you, like if you're a Texit coin miner and you're looking to build your Texit coin business, that's one of the ways that you're going to increase your passive income. That's one of the ways that you're going to increase your active income. Then I recommend getting on YouTube and finding somebody that you like that talks about sales and persuasion and communication. You guys understand that little changes make huge difference? Guys, if I were to text one of you right now, there's a lot of you that are going to laugh at this because you've probably seen some of this stuff. But if I were to text you right now because I wanted to talk to you about Texit Coin, I wouldn't message you and say, hey, Dave, is now a good time to give you a call about Texit Coin? Because guess what? Dave is going to tell me no 100 out of 100 times, even if it's a good time. Because guess what? Anytime you ask somebody a question that is designed to lead them into a yes, their spidey senses start tingling. They know what you mean. Like it used to, a common sales tactic used to be, get 3 or 4 yeses before you ask for the sale. So like, hey, Dave, you'd love to make $1 million a year, right? What's Dave going to say to that? No. Of course, Dave's going to say yes. And then you say, and then Dave, you were telling me earlier that you would like to have that Ferrari. So that would be incredible if you were able to take that $1 million and buy your dream Ferrari, right? Yes. Well, yeah, Dave's not going to say no. But what Dave is going to do? After a couple of those questions, he's going to realize, even if it's subconsciously, that you're asking him a leading question that's trying to basically manipulate him and get him to say yes to your final question. So, what's a better way than to say, hey, Dave, is now a good time to call you? Dave, humans are designed to say no. They are. So if I were to just say, hey, Dave, is now a good time to call you? His reaction to that would be no. Now, Dave might like me, know me, and trust me and actually say yes. He might overcome that initial subconscious reaction to say no and say yes. But that doesn't mean that it was the right way to ask. So when I text somebody that I want to talk to, I almost always flip it around and I would say, hey, Dave, is now a bad time to call you? Because people don't like saying yes. So the same way that Dave would automatically want to, not want to say yes, if I asked him if now was a good time to call. If I say, hey, Dave, is now a bad time to give you a call? He doesn't want to say yes. People don't want to say yes. So he's going to say, no, now's not a bad time to call. One of my other favorite words is opposed. Hey, Dave, would you be opposed to me giving you a call in 5 minutes? No, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Think about it in this terms. Like, instead of saying, hey, Dave, wouldn't you love to make $1 million a year? You say, hey, Dave, would you be opposed to making $1 million a year? Well, if Dave's going to say, no, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But if Dave thinks that you're leading him, you say, hey, Dave, wouldn't it be great to make $1 million a year? And he gets that spite. He wants to say yes, but he knows that he doesn't really want to say yes. But he say, hey, Dave, you opposed to making $1 million a year? No, I'm not opposed to that. So, would you be opposed to sending out a text message to a few people that you know about the Texas coin miners and sharing a video with them? No, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But if you say, hey, Dave, how do you feel about creating a text message and sending out a text message to some of your friends and family? Does that sound good? No, that doesn't sound good. I hate the sound of that. In fact, I'm not going to do that. I'm uncomfortable doing that. I don't want to do that. So there's a million different things that you might need to learn on this journey to become the person that you need to become. And having a coach is important. So use a coach for free if you can't afford one. But I recommend, as fast as humanly possible, start using a coach that you're paying for, because that's going to give you skin on the line. If you're paying to spend an hour a week with somebody and they're teaching you financial strategies, they're paying you or you're paying them and you're learning the things that got them to where you want to be, you got skin in the game. You're going to take it way more seriously. You're going to progress 10 times faster, and you're going to pay for these coaches in no time. I would challenge every one of you to prove me wrong. Go out and make 2026 the year of the coach. Go out and get a coach that helps you get into shape. Go out and get a coach that helps you to create the business that you've always wanted to create. Go out and get a coach that teaches you the financial strategies that you want to learn, that are going to take you to the financial place that you want. I challenge you to go get a coach and then come back to me in 2, 3, 4 months and tell me that it wasn't worth every dollar that you spent. In fact, I've got coaches that I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month for, and I can't wait. I got a guy that's got a program that's $55,000 a year to get coached by him. And guess what? I cannot wait to be able to pay that $55,000. I've got another friend that's a real estate investor, charges $10,000 a month for one-on-one coaching. I've got a good friend of mine that I do a lot of things with in crypto that actually just hired that coach and is paying the $10,000 a month. And guess what? It's a struggle. He don't have $10,000 a month. But guess what? Figuring out how to get that extra $10,000 to pay the coach is part of the fun, part of the struggle, part of the growing. And I guarantee you that one decision, that's 120 grand he's going to spend this year on this real estate coach. But guess what? I will go out on a limb. I'd be willing to bet anybody here that $120,000 that he pays this coach is probably going to make him 5 or 10 million or more. But even if it was just going to make him $1 million, would you spend $120,000 and if you got $1 million in return? Of course you would. So go get a coach. Stick around with me on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for a little bit of coaching. And with that, guys, man, I am going to Hey, Eric. Yeah, you definitely don't seem like a great fit for the channel, my friend. We gotta be a little bit more calm around here. I'm not gonna delete you from the channel today, but no, Monday is a teaching Monday's not, you know, like maybe I'll just start turning off the comments altogether. I'm not here on Monday to go back and forth and have a conversation with you guys. I'm teaching a topic on Mondays that I want to teach, and that I want, hopefully, those of you that are open-minded and want to learn what I'm teaching are there. So no, I don't look at the comments. I'm looking at the camera, and I have to look over here to see the comments. So no, I'm not going through each and every comment and going back and forth and have a conversation with you guys on Tuesday. So I apologize if that isn't what you're looking for. Go find another YouTuber that spends, you know, the whole time in the comments. But with that, guys, I hope you got some incredible value out of today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the Tuesday live stream. God bless you, and have a fantastic day.